I have to ask you guys a question. How many of you experienced stress today? Oh yeah. Did you know that stress can make you sick? Really sick. Over 70% of the office visits when you go and you see doctors are for stress-related illnesses. Although the doctors don't really know what caused it, they only treat the symptoms. And if you don't treat the cause, we all know it's going to come back at you again and again. So when you think about stress making you sick, oh, okay, tell me some metabolic stuff. Cortisol is in your body for a reason. It's secreted by the adrenal glands, and we all need it. But when you have too much cortisol, it's like having too much of a good thing. It drowns the immunity cells in your body, and they're no longer effective. And so when you have too much cortisol, you don't get to fight infection, illness, etc., etc. So yeah, stress can make you sick. And when you think about it, it affects us in a lot of different ways, and not in the typical ways that you would think. It can do hardening of the arteries, it can do a lot of metabolic issues, but I had the experience in a different way. I got a phone call because I'm a nurse, and I was doing triage one morning, and my job was to take the calls from the patients to find out if they really needed to see their doctors. There was an older gentleman on the phone, and his voice was a little weak, a little shaky, and I could tell he didn't feel very good. And he said, "Hey, yeah, I got to come in and see my doc." And I said, "Why?" "Because I'm the gatekeeper." And he said, "Well, you know, when I got up this morning, it was hard for me to button my shirt." I said, "Oh, tell me more." He said, "Well, I got to work and I couldn't stir the coffee. Couldn't stir the sugar in the coffee cup." And I'm like, "Okay, tell me more." He goes, "Well, I work in a tire shop, and I don't really feel that I should be going out working with the other guys, tossing tires, when my hands don't work." And I said, the hair on the back of my neck's going up. I'm going crazy because I know what's going on. And I said, "So it's been going on how long?" "Oh, just this morning." And I'm going, "Okay. Do you have a coworker maybe I could, talk to?" So he goes, "Yeah, there's people out in the shop." So he goes out to get a coworker. And while he's going out to get a coworker, I am freaking out because the guy's having a stroke. And so the coworker comes back, and I am trying to figure out a way to tell him and the gentleman I was talking to on the phone that he's having a stroke and he needs to get attention right away, without freaking him out, stressing him out, so that you could have a major episode right there in front of each other. My heart, thump, thump, thump. And I go back to a time when I was a disc jockey. And I was playing music, and there were a lot of stressful moments when you're being a disc jockey. One of them being if you're on a stage and you're introducing the act. And for sake of argument, let's just say Huey Lewis and the News. Okay, that's not hard. What album are they promoting? What's their new song? And what's the name of the venue? I had to do that in front of tens of thousands of people. And if you made a mistake, tens of thousands of people would know. So that was only part of my disc jockey job. The other part was in the studio. And in the studio, nobody sees what you're doing, and the microphone's right here, and you just talk into it. But there's time limits, minutes, seconds, and if you talk a second too long, you stepped on the vocals, and everybody knows because you're on the radio. So all those little hidden stressors, and I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, this reminds me of what happened. So at the end of the day, I've taken a few more calls. I get in the car, and I'm singing on the way home, trying to blow off steam, trying to feel better about my day that was oh so stressful really early in the morning. I get home and my sister's also a nurse, and we cook dinner together. And while the dinner is in the oven, getting ready, we go out on the patio. So we go out, we sit down, and we talk about our day. And this is what I like to call spewing, because I let her know everything that happened, and she gives me a pat on the back and an attaboy, and you did everything you were supposed to do. And I'm like, well, I hope so, but he did get to the hospital. And then she tells me about her day, and I say, oh, you did great, and we would console each other. We would spew, because can't have that kind of stress for the next day when I have to answer the phone, and the next day when I have to answer the phone, because my mind has to be sharp to pick up the subtle things that my patients are telling me. Just like if I were working in the ICU. You don't want a stressed nurse in the ICU taking care of your loved one. Because if I were working in the ICU and I was all stressed out, I might miss the subtle intricacies that are in that room. And let's face it, there's enough stress in that room if it is an intensive care unit or any hospital room. Because you've got the patient who's ill, whose body is under stress. And then you've got the family members, the loved ones, people who are in there worried about the patient who's in the hospital room. So you really don't want to be stressed or have a stressed healthcare worker. When there's a bad outcome in the medical field, there's what's called a little meeting, and it's an autopsy. And everybody gets together. And it reminds me a lot of when I was getting together with my sister and spewing, or just letting people know they did okay. It was a bad outcome. We did this, this, and this, but let's do this, this, and this better. It's a way for the emergency room doctors, nurses, EMTs, the ambulance drivers, all to spew so that they can get that off their chest and they can get rid of the stress. It works because those workers have to go back to their job, and you don't want them replaying the last patient in their mind over and over and over again, especially with a bad outcome. So you think about it, and you can relate this not only to medical people. You can think of you've just applied for a job, and you just got the job, and it's new employee orientation. And you're there, and you're writing everything down, and you're trying to do the best job possible. And then you're so nervous, and you're so stressed out. But, oh yeah, hey, I'm fine. It's the mask we put on our face. Well, you're not fine. And if you don't start self-caring for yourself, you're going back to that job again and again and again. And if you don't handle the little stressors that are coming out in orientation, the new job, new people, you have to meet with different bosses. And I want to do my best. You're not dealing with that. It's kind of like compound interest when you're on the wrong end of it. Compounding stress gets worse and gets worse. Now, if you have too much cortisol in your body, I have read studies where it actually can make cancer cells grow faster. We don't want that. The big C word. We don't want any illness to go any faster in our bodies. We want to take care of it. And you can do something proactive with self-care. So a lot of people put the mask on in a lot of different ways. And you might see people who overindulge. Alcohol, food, drugs, exercise. Now, I'm not a big proponent of not exercising. I actually think it's a great thing. But when exercise becomes stressful, it's not good for you. And some people say, well, I work off my stress because I exercise. Yeah, great, hey, but if it's stressing you out because you got to get to the gym, it's probably not doing you any good. We've all been in rooms where there's energy here and energy here and energy here, and it's all not good energy. And then have you ever looked maybe in the corner, and there's someone who people want to gravitate to because they've learned how to deal with their stress. They've learned how to deal with all the different energies in the room, And in the way that they are dealing with it, in a healthy way that they're dealing with it, makes people want to come to them, draw towards them. Wayne Dyer's a lot like that. You draw them to you. Because everyone wants to be in a less stressful place, and if you're in a room that has all of this going on everywhere, you're going to seek out the calm. When you're taking care of people, when you're taking care of loved ones, when you have financial details, you have outside stressors, you need self-care. You need to learn to breathe. You need to learn what works for you. Because the only way that you can stay away from some of those stress illnesses is if each and every day you do something proactive to take care of yourself. I urge you to learn how to be the calm in your chaos.